Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be talking about Egypt's spearheading efforts to develop the information and technology sector and communication sector. Now, Egypt has jumped from the 40th position to the 3rd position in the ICT ranking within the African continent. We're going to be talking about the prospects of the development in this quite integral sector. But before we start doing so, let's check out a couple of the stories making the news today. And we'll start off with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who followed up today the executive status of preparations ahead of the transfer to the new administrative capital. This came during the President's meeting with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, the Minister of Housing and Utilities and Urban Communities, Asim al-Ghazar, and the Presidential Advisor for Urban Planning. President el-Sisi was briefed on the latest steps to transfer ministries and governmental bodies to the new administrative capital. The head of state gave his directives for construction work to continue according to schedule. Meanwhile, Minister al-Ghazar reviewed the housing plans for employees at the new administrative capital, especially measures needed to facilitating real estate financing for housing units. And Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli gave his directives to intensify efforts to alleviate the sufferings of patients and their families in accordance with directives of President el-Sisi. Following up efforts by the Higher Medical Committee during January, Madbouli also received a report by the committee head, Dr. Hussein al-Masri, the Cabinet's medical counsellor. The Prime Minister praised efforts by the committee and its swift handling of emergency calls by citizens. For his part, Dr. al-Masri said 450 emergency calls had been addressed in January, including 146 which were transferred to state-funded treatment and 123 surgeries were conducted. These were a couple of stories making the news today, but now turning our attention to the communication and information technology sector. Now, President el-Sisi has made it very well known that he is supporting the development within the communication and information technology efforts here in Egypt. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held talks with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and the Minister of Communications and Information Technology, Amr Talat, to discuss national projects in the communications and information technology sector. These projects contribute to building the Egyptian character, supporting the government's digital transformation plan, maximizing the state's capabilities and promoting efforts to advance development in Egypt. In this context, the President directed this sector be further developed, as it is one of the pillars of economic and social growth in the country. His Excellency emphasized its important role in providing the best services to citizens. President el-Sisi gave directives to focus on investment in human capital, providing training programs to develop technological skills, and provide various digital services to keep pace with the modern requirements of the labor market. Meanwhile, Minister Talat presented the status of a number of projects in the communications and information technology sector. The presentation included the educational process of Egypt University of Informatics, the grants it offers to high school graduates, and the project to establish a knowledge city in the new administrative capital. As part of the government's digital transformation efforts, the minister also presented the Development and Implementing Digital Egypt initiative, which aims to support government performance by providing the latest digital services to citizens nationwide. The minister reviewed efforts to develop a system for digital exams and mechanized university hospitals. He presented the status of the digital infrastructure and information services in their aspects in the new administrative capital.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and to shed more light on this quite integral sector here in Egypt, we're joined by Dr. Nezar Sami, the Innovation and Technology Consultant. Dr. Sami, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Hani, for the invitation, and good evening.
Good evening, sir. Now, Dr. Sami, you've been talking many times on the show on the communication and information technology sector. We understand that we've come a long way over the past few years. Egypt is going through its own digital transformation. The sector has been witnessing a huge boom within the Egyptian economy and lifestyle as well. But the president is still trying to develop the sector. There's still work to be done. So instead of just talking about how this can be beneficial for our way of life and our economy, how can we develop more the communication and information technology?
Well, as we all witnessed in the last period of time, especially after COVID, that the role of information and communication technology have been highlighted a lot during our day-to-day activities and services from each and every person in the country. Mm-hmm. And from that point, which is a real trigger for people to utilize the technology in the proper position, it's not the matter of developing technology as much as it is the matter of the utilization and the use of technology by normal persons. They don't have to have like skills, they don't have more access to information or data. It has to be like as seamless as you have just click push buttons like that. And in this sense, in this direction, Egypt took a further steps forward to move into the digital society. This started 2015 with the Supreme Council for the Digital Society, headed by His Excellency the Prime Minister, and affiliation of the related ministers and working groups. And they started to put like a roadmap for the development of the technology sector in Egypt on moving into the digital Egypt as well. And parallel to that, there was the Egypt Vision 2030, which is stating that by 2030, the Egyptian economy will be international, competitive, diversified, based on innovation and knowledge for prosperity and better life for Egyptians. So, information and communication technology is playing a vital role in the economical development of the economy, raising the economy and the GDP of Egypt. It is one of the more important 5 pillars in the economy in that way. So we talk about the connectivity, we talk about the infrastructure availability for each and every person, we talk about the use of different access to means of communication like mobile phones, internet access, and so on and so forth, having a layer on top of that, which is the most important part, which is the application. So all the above mentioned, or the I mentioned items before, there are all infrastructure. Maybe we don't feel about that, but we can realize that the internet is better, the mobile phone calls, it went smoothly, and so on and so forth. Yet it is an area of improvement which is very huge, and the development is coming day by day. It depends on the demand coming from the users in that direction. So it is a vital and important part to move forward in that direction. Now, heading to the industry revolution, and we'll talk about the 4th industry revolution as well, and what does it require from having like what we call the disruptive technological application in that direction. All are based on information, communication technology, and technical development.
Yes. Well, we will talk about the 4th industrial revolution, but before we start doing that, you spoke about the application of this sector within the lives of all Egyptians, but also the president, in his meetings with the Prime Minister and the cabinet, they spoke specifically about the employees, the workers who are working in administrative bodies, the logistical affairs, that they need to have the training. They need to start transforming the way they work from having a hard copy, papers and pen and papers and such, to learning how to use it, learning how to use their computers, their tablets, transforming the whole process digitally. Now, how will that work within each and every ministry, within each and every institution? How will it happen, and what would be the fate of those who, I mean, if the employees are receptive to the training, that's no problem. But what about those who won't be as receptive?
Well, it's a very good question, because we need to shed the light on what does it mean to have like digital transformation, and how this is reflected on what is the difference between automation, which is the normal use of computers, facilities, internet, scanners, printers, and everywhere of this type of gadgets and technical devices. To start with, His Excellency President Abdel Fattah Sisi is a strong believer in the capabilities and the capacities of the Egyptians. So every time he mentioned that we need to care about the employees, we need to care about the citizens, we need to care about development of the human, the youth as well is one of his most important item on his agenda on a day by day. So when it comes to the digital transformation process, it's not only replacing the normal pen and paper procedures with the computer-based applications, but the most important part, how about capacity building and human capital development in that area. Therefore, there are some programs from different institutions all over the place. For instance, we have the National Telecommunication Institute. It's responsible for doing this type of digital transformation training programs to elevate the capacity of the government employees moving from the normal places into moving to the new administrative capital. As you know, and all the audience know, that the administrative capital have been ranked as #1 as a smart city in the Arab League society. This is nominated by #1 in the Arab countries as well. Now, different types of programs were inducted by those specific people. Also, there is a unit in each and every minister about digital transformation. So this unit is responsible of linking and making this type of smooth transition from the normal pen and paper procedures into that, taking care of the human capital and their continual improvement and learning in process. So how about those are not receptive to training? And this is the most important pillar when we talk about digital transformation. In digital transformation, actually, we're hitting what we call the competencies. So in this program, people are assessed according to their competencies, and then they will be reallocated, depends on their capabilities and their capacities, in order to make people, nobody to be left behind. This is the key essence of digital transformation. We need to redistribute the jobs, thinking about creating a new jobs that were not there before, matchmaking with new jobs and old jobs, okay? Raising the awareness about the utilization of technology, as well as enhancing the skill sets for each and every person in that era.
Yes.
So different institutions are moving forward. Just to give a quick number, because to realize how the process is not that easy and tough. For instance, when you talk about digital transformation and having the infrastructure connectivity, the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology is doing a fantastic job in connecting 30,000 buildings with a high-speed fiber optic network. You can imagine 30,000 buildings and institutions right now covered with high-speed network to have a seamless data flow and data transformation. If we take just a sample of one ministry, the number of documents being transformed from the paper into digital format, some ministries exceeded actually 90 million documents. You can imagine the flow of information. Yes. How about the headache of, we need data storage, data protection, security, authentication, and all these stuff of protecting with the information. So it is a huge process for decent lives. And Hayat Karima, you remember that's Hayat Karima as well, for the Egyptians, as well as the employees in the government organization, is extremely important. And as I mentioned, Ministry of Planning, they have the National Planning Institute doing some of the programs. We have the National Telecommunication Institute doing another program, as well as. So there are like parallel moves from different institutions to prepare people to lead the future with their digital skills.
Yes. Well, you've mentioned one ministry responsible for transforming 90 million documents.
From one ministry.
From one ministry. So let's multiply that by a much bigger number. How long would that process take?
Let's go to the what we call the good practices worldwide. Good practices said if we would like to move into this digital transformation, normally it takes from 10 to 15 years, okay, to have all these systems working smoothly and operating in a seamless way. And last month there were a training programs actually conducted, and some of the officials from Egypt attended this program by the government of Estonia, by the United Nations Development Program, about how did they move into the e-government solutions. And Estonia, to give you the numbers, they are only 1 million citizens. So this program took them like almost 10 years. So when it comes right now, you can see the vision of Excellency the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and he was insisting that this project of infrastructure readiness should be completed in 3 years. So we are crashing, we are put all the emphasis, all the resources to highlight. So from the infrastructure point of view, to cover all over the Egypt, we are in almost in the 2/3 of the project have been concluded, so we are remaining just 1 or 2 years to reach the final stage. And from the data conversion, we have the good news that most of the ministries right now moving into the new administrative capital have been digitized all their content in the data center of Egypt, which is a very good news, as well as moving and preparing the technical staff for this era. So we had like really a very good leaps in that direction, where we are heading into the digital society in the new administrative capital. It will be the real trigger for having such digital services.
Well, the President actually was just talking about this today with the Prime Minister, talking about the imminent sort of inauguration of the new administrative capital, and you spoke about moving and transferring the employees there, talking about the housing. Now, one of the main things within the administrative capital is the knowledge city. Now, within the Digital Egypt initiative, how can this knowledge city help the ICT sector and the lives of Egyptians as a whole?
Perfect. Let's call back the Egypt Vision 2030. It is based on innovation and knowledge. So the knowledge is there. This is the core of any development in the world. So we started with in the center of the administrative capital, we have the knowledge city. It consists of a lot of pillars. One of the most important part, which is a technology-based world-class university, the Egypt University for Informatics, which is extremely a role model for the higher education in the 21st century right now, having this collaborative mode of operation with world-class universities conducting different programs in that area. More than one aspect, which is the incubation and incubator systems that are over there, so it would be already available. Connecting the world-class multinational companies as well to do what we call the knowledge transfer and technology transfer, which is the most important part as well. So this spot in the administrative capital will be the new hub or the heart of the technological development in the ICT sector in the coming few years, inshallah.
Well, Dr. Sami, you've mentioned that now at least 30,000 buildings have been equipped with a network of high-speed fiber optics. Now, does that mean that we're never going to hear that phrase, system is down, so you can't get your procedures done within any sort of institution? And when can we actually see not just 30,000, but all of Egypt being covered by a high-speed fiber network in Egypt?
Actually, it started from the grassroots level, which is the villages. We can see right now with the Haya Karima or the Decent Life project that 4,000 villages are going to be covered with high-speed fiber optical network. And right now, some of those villages already connected with this backbone network as well. So in the design of this type of network, it depends on what we call the fiber rings. The concept of the fiber rings, in a nutshell, there is no single point of failure in this way. So, and it is expandable as long as there is a physical room for installing new cables, so it just plug and play. So suffering from latency of data transfer is not there on the infrastructure level. So it is there, it is granted, designed with no single point of failure, which is the most important part, so you can have more multiple routes for data to move from one place to another. Imagine we are here right now in Tahrir Square, and we need to move to another place in Cairo, so we have multiple routes. So if there is one blockage in one system or one direction, you can redirect or reroute your path to the destination from another place. So this is granted. Now let's move to the upper layer, which is the servers, the database, and all of these things. Also, again, it depends on what we call the full redundant system, because these are the mission critical applications. So on that layer as well, they are granted. There is no single point of failure, and the latency as well is important. Coming to that, which is the area of the security. Security is the game of nation right now. Okay, so security is not a default. People dealing with the security, this is their slogan, security is not a default. So every day they have something new to add. There's continuous improvement, not just day by day, it could be second by second. So they are uplifting their skills, uplifting their equipment in order to fulfill any threats, any attacks coming, any cyber attacks coming to their systems all over the place. So having this type of infrastructure readiness, it is ready for such a move to the new era of applications. So right now, we are asking all the Egyptians just to try the Digital Egypt platform. This is in the soft launch. People working in the system, they need to test the stress load, what we call it. For instance, you see how much people are really coming to come to the system and try to access it per second. The numbers are really very fantastic. You can see how the performance is leading. Sometimes there are some hiccups in the system, yet it is in the pilot stage or in the soft launching stage. The more people are coming in, the more people are connecting, the more people are asking for services, the more resilient and the more powerful the system will be able in order to detect the gaps, detect if there is any type of misconfiguration that we need to come up, maybe some special cases, for instance, some different requests coming out of that. So everything needs to be tested. That's why there is a continuous improvement process done in the area of moving into the digital network as well, or digital transformation process as well.
Well, if we're trying to develop that sort of safety and security aspect of the information communication technology now, can't we get the leading sector around the world seeing how they can safely secure their networks? I mean, we've seen a lot of problems even quite recently, a few months ago, with Facebook and WhatsApp, where everything was shut down all around the world. How can we actually guarantee that for Egypt in specific? Because when people are dealing with the digital age, people are transferring money, important documents. I mean, you really can't afford to have any sort of security breach within these sort of dealings. How can we actually just speedily deal with that problem?
Fantastic. You hit it actually two different parts, which is the financial market and financial sector as well as the security. And both sides, right now we have the rescue emergency team, and one of them in the National Telecommunication Regulatory Authority. There is a very smart people, almost like 15 years ago, doing with, or even more, dealing with the security incidents and security aspects. And in the Central Bank of Egypt, they have the CERT, which is the Computer Emergency Rescue Team as well. They are specialized in financial incidents and breaches and all these type of frauds and malware and malware systems. And both of them having a collaboration with big names or big players in the market, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have service, what we call service provisioning. In the service provisioning, you can predict the attacks before it comes. So therefore, this team or these teams actually are doing a fantastic job for having like this type of services, service provisioning, detection, early detection, and alerting systems in that place. They also put some sort of sensors all over wherever the transactions are there. Depend on, again, new technology systems like artificial intelligence. This will be playing a very important role in security as well, because it will give you some insights about how the behavioral attacks is going to be coming. Cognitive behavioral attacks is very much important and taking place right now. It's not just only hacking your password or stealing your credit card number, but it's about simulating your behavior as if you are Hani, I'm Hani, I'm doing the same thing digitally. So how you can detect this, which is the most difficult part, and thanks that we have already some very few, yet they are specialized in this type of cognitive behavioral and analytics in that manner, and then put it into what we call digital forensics in order to make sure that everything is encapsulated in the proper way. Yet it's not end of the race. It is an infinite loop of development. So if we reach a stage of maturity right now for this type of time, so how about next hour? So it is always being alerted, always being, they are stepping on their toes, as we say, each and every time.
And that's also applied to governmental institutions and, I mean, and the military, I mean, cases of national security, these precautions and these measures are being taken as well.
Definitely. Standard measures, standard procedures, multi-stage security defense layers is there. Remember, His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi inaugurated the Center of Secure Documents, which is the hub of the digital brain of Egypt, or the hub of the data center of Egypt. All these type of data centers and all these type of data storage have been secured, multiple layers with extremely highly sophisticated systems all over around the clock in order to assure, yet this is not, again, end of the story, but it is always continuous to be improved.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the improvement of the information communication technology, it is forecasted that this sector will double its growth of GDP to 5% for the next fiscal year. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
The communications and information technologies contribution to Egypt's GDP is expected to double to 5% in the fiscal year 2021-2022. Egypt also targets doubling the information and communications technology sector contribution to the GDP to 5% in the current fiscal year compared to 2.6% in the previous year. Minister of Planning and Economic Development Hala Said declared it is planned to uplift the sector's export capacity to reach $6 billion in this year, up from $3.5 billion in the previous year, as well as increase the share of ICT exports to 5% of the total Egypt's exports, compared to 2.5% in the previous fiscal year. The minister noted that COVID-19 has provided the importance of the ICT sector, which witnessed an unprecedented boom on demand amid the lockdown measures that had been taken in the first wave of the pandemic and in the following waves. According to the minister, the sector's output is also projected to grow by 20.4%, whilst it is expected to up by 20.5%. For the sector's exports, she explained that they're projected to increase to $3.5 billion, alongside following up the second phase of the Internet Advancement Plan that was started in the second half of last year. She noted the world is experiencing a real revolution in the ICT sector, which contributes to the achievements of sustainable development goals and agendas. ICT strategy supports Egypt's Vision 2030 and its Digital Egypt project through modernizing the sector's infrastructure, enhancing the financial and digital inclusion, boosting capabilities, encouraging innovation, and guaranteeing cybersecurity.
Welcome Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Dr. Nezar Sami. Now, sir, the contribution of the ICT sector to Egypt's GDP is forecast to double to 5%. Now, how do you measure, first of all, how do you measure the participation of the ICT sector within the GDP of the Egyptian economy? Is it something on its own? Does it generate its own GDP, or is it measured through its influence and application through different sectors as well?
Fantastic. There are some indicators we need to make sure that we know about it, which is the Global Competitiveness Index, the Global ICT Competitiveness Index as well as the Global Artificial Intelligence Governance Readiness Indicator. And if we review these type of indicators, we can see that the role of information and communication technology is taking a very much playing a very much important role on these type of indicators as well. And Egypt moved forward from one indicator, for instance, the government readiness in the artificial intelligence. Egypt moved 55 steps upward into the top of the indicators right now the last year, because we launched a full-fledged bunch of strategy followed by education programs and technological development and so on, very full-fledged services in this type of strategy. When it comes to the GDP, it means that how much this type of industry is injecting money into the economy. And this comes from the exports in terms of different services that we can cater for. So we have the business process outsourcing, which is in a very basic terminology, it was the call center industry. We have the software development industry as well. We have like the electronics, and moving into the electronics is one of the most important part, as well as some other hosted services that we can provide for the rest of the world. Also supporting the SMEs, which is the small and medium enterprises and entrepreneurship, because we witness in the 2021 the acquisition of one of the Egyptian startups and been listed in the international stock markets. So this is how this industry is contributing to the GDP. So the number of money coming in due to the different further transaction as well. And the main driver in that, which is the human capital. So do we have the right candidates that they know about the future, that they know about the technology, about services, and how this is being utilized or not? This is the key question in this direction.
Yes. Well, we've been talking the past few days about the preparations regarding the Egypt Can conference, which this time, the 6th edition, will be the Egypt Can Industry Conference. And you've spoken about the 4th Egyptian Industrial Technological Revolution. Now, what is the common link between both, and how can we really maximize on this sort of 4th Industrial Revolution within the ICT sector? Is it only talking about focusing on the digitalization of the SMEs, or is it talking about producing the actual tablets? Is it talking, I mean, how can we actually maximize on this 4th revolution within the Egypt Can conference?
Fantastic. Let's give some insights for our audience about the Egypt Can. This is a ministerial program, comes into life a few years ago, and each and every time they have a theme for this conference. It's about education, it's about women, and it's about industry, and so on and so forth, and how we can link Egypt with the world from their expertise and expats, the Egyptian expats working abroad. And when you talk, this is about Egypt Can. How about the industry revolution, the 4th industry revolution? In other words, we can call it the industrial internet, where the industry, whatever manufacturing or whatever it is, in agribusiness, food processing, oil and gas, automotive industry, name it, all these type of machineries will be connected to the internet, and then having internet is like a high-speed road. and then you can plug in a piece of software that will give you some sort of governance. Digital governance is extremely important, where it can give you some sort of process improvement for doing the job, controllability, scalability, sustainability as well. So the fourth industrial revolution is how to inject those emerging technology like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain, you can name it, cloud computing, into the normal life for normal industries, and then we need to see the another flip in this type of industry. And right now, people have started to talk about the fifth industrial revolution. In the fourth industrial revolution, there was like a strong belief that the computer is going to replace everybody. Yet, in the fifth industrial revolution, how the humans will be able to work closely with the machine in a seamless manner. So they are going to raise back the role of you and me when we deal about different devices or different equipment, and how we can have like a seamless language between this type of device, this is again about related to cognitive handling or cognitive processing or digital cognitive processing in this era. So this is how it will work in that direction. So this will open up a wide range of applications. For instance, digitalization of small and medium enterprises. The small manufacturers is extremely important because they have what we call, they are very flexible, very agile to move in that direction. And I can see that some other funding programs coming through different ministries to do this type of digitalization. Another thing about process improvement, about digital governance, okay, process optimization, all these things are moving forward in that direction. So who's going to develop all these type of application? Of course, participants, students coming from university, experts, technology experts coming in that area. Therefore, we can now realize the role. Why did we have integrated universities and new universities, new school of artificial intelligence and advanced knowledge and advanced technologies? Because we need to equip the market with the proper skills that needed to develop this type of application in the future.
Yes. Dr. Sami, whenever we meet here on the show and we talk about the information communication technology, always artificial intelligence comes into the equation, and it is the future, and it seems that there are way too many benefits for the application of artificial intelligence. Now, you're saying that the fourth revolution now is really the application and implementation, the technological aspect and digital aspect of it, and people are now thinking, as you're saying, about the fifth revolution, which would be talking about how computers or the technology can deal in accordance with the humans. So it's a sort of a balance of power. Now, if we go fast forward and we look at a sixth revolution, then talking about the artificial intelligence, talking about taking over and really making marginalizing the human sort of aspect in dealing with all of these things. Now, if we apply all of these things, all at the same speed, at the same time, with the same sort of efficiency, does that mean that an Egyptian or a human sort of impulsive decision, or within a business, or a spontaneous sort of decision being taken by a business owner, for instance, can it just interfere and change the course of any cognitive behavior, not of the human being, but of the technology itself? Or are we just giving in everything to the AI?
You said just one key word, which is the technology is being developed, right? Who's developing the technology?
We are.
So we are still more away ahead of the technology with our human capabilities and the brain capabilities of each and every person. So it's not about the matter of how the technology is leading, how technology is moving forward. It's more about how we can create the value out of it. There is a positive use of technology and a negative use of technology. Again, what is the value of developing such technological application? We are controlling the systems, okay? Computers is going to control the normal procedures. Okay, but the normal procedures 10 years ago is different from the normal procedures as of today, and would be different from normal procedures 10 years from now. So we need to think about the science fiction. If we need to start to foster the culture of or to inspire people to think about the future, let's talk about the science fiction actually. So with the science fiction, for instance, you imagine that you can talk to the chair, you can talk to your pen, you can talk to the whatever device, okay? So this will help you doing that. So sky's your limit in the way of thinking, yet the humans are still on the top of the control of everything. The area is how we can improve our skills further and further, because at the end of the day, we are the creator of this technology. Okay, so the computer can do a lot of math calculations, which is for us is extremely heavy to calculate. But I can give you one feature. Till now, they couldn't simulate one eye from the human being. With this amazing behavioral or amazing development of technology, the accuracy, the recognition of colors, and all these type of features, still the computer is still away from that. This means that there are people, the scientists are moving in the behavior. Yes, they are moving forward and forward, yet they can help. This is the positive use of technology, how we can augment, which is what we call singularity, how we can augment the humans with the technology in order to, for instance, if I have people with disabilities, for instance, so how can I put them in better life? How can the technology can give them a hope for their life again? Yes. So this is what we should care about. So science fiction, open up your imagination, okay, and think about how to develop peace, how to develop the society, how to develop the marginalized communities, okay, with their rights to access to that, to the right resources and right technological aspect. This is the key question that we all need to think about, and how to make it real, and the dreams will become real one day.
Dr. Sami, we've been talking about the digitalization here in Egypt, and I mean, talking about converting paper documents to digital software. And are we working at the same fast pace in developing artificial intelligence here in Egypt? I mean, we're talking about sustainable development, talking about achieving sustainable development within the ICT sector by the year 2030. What about the application of AI? We've established and open universities and academic curricula regarding AI. But what about the application? How soon can we see it being applied, being part of the daily, day-to-day life of Egyptians?
To come with the daily life of the Egyptians, let me put or rephrase the application. For instance, you would like this type of applications to be developed by Egyptian or by Egyptian software developers, or it doesn't matter for me. If the answer I want to have to see the Egyptian talents coming in on the marketplace, yes, we have good talents coming right now. The Ministry of Information and Communication Technology has a very sustainable roadmap for this, started like in the shape of a pyramid. So the bottom of the pyramid is to have like the literacy of AI. So everybody should know about the AI and how does this will help in our day-to-day life. Till we reach in the top of the pyramid, which is a very specialized, world-class master's program, technical program with world-class industry technological leaders for those very specific people. And so this program, which is Digital Egypt Builders Initiative, which is called DEBI, started a year ago, and then this program Right now we have a lot of enrolled students in that. Parallel to this, we have the newly inaugurated universities, the EUI, which is the Egyptian University for Informatics. Expected in the terms of like 5 years from now, we will have a very strong pillar demanded in the marketplace to support the era of technological development, mainly in AI and such disruptive technology as well.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you've just heard from Dr. Sami, the ICT sector is quickly being developed here in Egypt, changing the way of lives for all Egyptians. Simultaneously, AI has a bright future for the Egyptian life and the Egyptian economy in specific. Unfortunately, I mean, we can talk about this for quite some time, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. Before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Dr. Nezar Sami, the Innovation and Technology Consultant. Dr. Sami, always a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you for your mind.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.